Hello and welcome to this edition of Top of Mind Florida. Michael Williams here.
You notice you always get your name in first?
Yes.
And this is Brian Crowley.
Since that bothers you, we'll have you start next time.
He always wants to be first.
But far more important than our names, far more important, we have Karis Engle, President and CEO of the Glades Initiative, as your page says, a nonprofit addressing health and human service system needs and care needs in the Glades. And I must say, I do some work at Lynn University, and I became introduced to you through our students who did a story on the fact that you all do a lot in terms of food relief for people there, a problem that is becoming all the tougher because of federal funding cuts to federal food aid, at least in the midst of the shutdown, which as we tape is still ongoing, Brian.
So tell us, how bad are things out in the Glades when it comes to food security?
I think food insecurity is huge across our county, actually. But one of the challenges, particularly in the Glades, is that we are a little more isolated from the resources of the coast. And we also have a higher percentage of people living in poverty. So anytime you have that kind of a scenario, you're going to end up with more people in need. And then when you have challenging times like we have now, it's just going to be times 10, times 100. Because with the government shutdown and SNAP benefits being paused or maybe being distributed at half. We don't know quite yet what's going to happen with that. But even apart from the government shutdown, hunger is a real issue in our county all the time. This last year, more cuts were made to the USDA food, which we call TFAP. That's what is given to food banks to give out to people. Back in the day, that was the cheese, the government cheese. I don't know if you recall that. But there are different ways that our government has set up to provide emergency assistance for people in great need, whether it's the SNAP benefits, whether it's the food banks and the food we distribute, or whether it's relying on our friends and neighbors who donate and are able to come and support the people in need.
You talk about the problem across the county. Talk a bit more about the scope of the problem. First, how many you serve routinely when it comes to your food bank efforts, and talk about the scope of the problem, both there and a little more largely countywide.
So in the Glades area, of course, we are a very small percentage of the population. Sure. But we do serve, people are able to come for food once a week. And last month, we averaged 800 families each week. So that's probably, we have 2 days we do it from site, and we do deliveries to seniors that don't have transportation and stuck at home. So we have about 130 households we serve that way, and then the others come up on one of the pantry days. So that's about 2,500 people receiving food from us. It's anywhere from 15,000 pounds to 20,000 pounds of food a week in and out. Helping people. So when we look at Palm Beach County in the broader picture, I was seeing data that said that about 192,000 folks across Palm Beach County are food insecure. And there's some other data that is used often by the different United Ways called ALICE, Asset Limited Income Restrained, but yet employed. So a lot of times you have the notions that, people need to get a job, then they don't need SNAP. Well, 60% of who we serve is working. Then you have your people who are disabled or home taking care of children and seniors who are retired. So I think there's a real misnomer about who it is that needs these services. And I just want to emphasize, when you think about, only recently has Florida really made efforts to increase the minimum wage. So we're currently at $15 an hour. But if you make $15 an hour and you work full-time, year-round, that's only $31,000 a year. Can you imagine trying to feed your family off of $31,000 a year? Especially in Palm Beach County, housing alone would probably cost that. So there's a lot of people who ongoing, and in spite of the government shutdown, that's just making it harder and worse, but they're already struggling. And I think it's about to get even worse because the changes that some of the more recent bills that were passed, they put the changes in for future after the midterm elections, and they're going to put in different requirements for getting SNAP. So people who rely on it now, many won't maybe be eligible any longer. So, and then you have the health insurance part, which also comes into that. So if you're not eligible for Medicaid or you don't have the subsidies that were there with the Affordable Care Act, what do you choose? Do you feed your family? Do you have health insurance? Do you live in a house? Do you know how it's tough. So those are some of the challenges when we look countywide, because there are those challenges everywhere for especially people working in the service industry, construction, farm work, the people who are paid and survive on minimum wage.
You know, not only the Glades, but in a lot of rural areas throughout Florida, you have similar problems that you have in the Glades. So, and one of the issues out in the Glades is that there's not a lot of jobs. You know, people I know out there, when they to work, will have to drive 20 miles east into Wellington or Royal Palm Beach or one of those areas for a $15 an hour job. Why are there so few job opportunities in the Glades and a lot of the rural areas in Florida?
That's a bigger question beyond me. I do know that there's different groups that really look at that and work at putting industry, creating industry or warehouse work where there is a decent wage per hour, perhaps, into communities. But it is a challenge because a lot of the work is agricultural and it's seasonal. So not only is it not necessarily high paying, but it's only part of the year. And so our season is only now starting. The agricultural season is similar to the tourist season, to help people Florida understand that. So, October kind of starts get going and it's starting to reel up. So the folks that we help, many will hopefully soon be able to be employed in the heavier time of the year. And then come summer, again, it will die down, or some will migrate to northern areas where they will help harvest crops, but many will stay and just try to get by until the season starts up again, or find whatever odd jobs they can. So
you're not throwing your hands up. The frustration is evident with your quarter century plus of dealing with this, is that it's tough a situation as you've ever had to navigate. And what are you doing to try to navigate it right now?
So I do think it's the worst I've seen. And unfortunately, I think it's likely to get worse. We're not seeing, I think in the past we've had challenges, but perhaps we saw more help coming from the government. COVID was horrible, but there was money put in to help us purchase more food, to be able to get food into the community and more relief and other resources. And I don't think we can rely on that. We won't be seeing that this time, not from the federal, state. We can maybe hope at the local levels, and those philanthropic folks that do live in Palm Beach County, hopefully they will dig a little deeper, to help those of us, especially as nonprofits, make up the shortages. I'll give you an example. I spoke of TFAP money when it comes to pantries. This comes through a number of different food banks and comes all the way down to those of us that distribute it directly to people. It was cut in half just this past year. So that was long before even the shutdown. So we went from handing out, I think the year before, $600,000 worth of food, of TFAP food, and this year was only $300,000 worth. So, we're helping more people, but with less resources. So maybe it means instead of 35 pounds of food when someone comes, they might only get 25 pounds of food. We have to make it stretch.
What's the long-term solution to the food needs?
That's a big question. I think if someone had all the answers, that would be great. I think livable wages. I think jobs that pay a decent wage and take care of people. The guarantee that people have coverage for health, medical emergencies are often what put people under in the first place. I think there's education that will help also, but having access to opportunity for a lot of people would probably be a big solution.
What do you say?
Long term.
What do you say to people who watch and say, "That's an over there problem. It's not my problem"? What do you say to that kind of thinking?
I say that you need to stretch your bubble a little further. It's interesting how even when you're trying to help someone access a service, you can tell somebody 10 times, but if it's not something they need or they don't know someone who needs it, we're so overloaded with information. But the moment their sister, their child, their parent and they need to find a therapist. How do I go about finding a therapist? I need to, they lost their job and now they need a little extra food. Or, those resources are there, and there are a lot of entities. So I think, unfortunately, people live in bubbles where they don't have exposure to that and don't realize there's so many people that are struggling.
Well, and you said early on, what I hear is that this notion that that's over there, this is growing and growing and growing. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, working hard, you may not be that far from being the next person who needs to go find that food aid. By your numbers earlier, if it's roughly 200,000, basically by the numbers you cited earlier, you're talking about 1 in 8 people in Palm Beach County who are food insecure. If you're talking 200,000, population 1.5 plus, that's 1 out of 8 people. That's staggering.
It is. And we're a county that's known to be well off.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in the shadows of our well off, we have all the pieces, all the people who are making that work. And it's easy to forget how that happens.
What is your ask right now? What are you doing specifically to fight the good fight, to keep enough food there, especially in the holiday season, though people need food all the time? What are you doing at the Glades Initiative right now?
We just ask people to dig deep. You support us. You can donate to us online. You can donate dollars so we can purchase food. You can donate food itself. Sometimes logistically, cash is easier to purchase food in the larger quantities that we're giving out. You're welcome to come volunteer, help pack the food bags that we distribute, or stack the shelves during the choice pantry time. And I know we are just one of hundreds of agencies around Palm Beach County that are really trying to address this issue, and we're all working together truly to do the best we can to help all the folks in need. There is so much need right now.
Well, that sounds really great, but there's an awful lot of people, as you noted, that have a lot of money. We have many billionaires living in Palm Beach County and many billionaires living in South Florida. Are they doing all they can do?
I am sure there are people who can do more. I'm sure there's people who can write $1 million checks without blinking an eye. I do know we do have a number of local foundations who are extremely generous and do support us all the time. And so maybe they can lean on some of their colleagues and the people that they know to maybe start, if they're not already being philanthropic, to, once you have so much, what's a little more to give?
Sure.
How much can a little go a long way? Talk about where dollars. For people hearing this who say, I'd like to help, how much money does it take to get the kind of donations you need? Some people say that, well, I'm daunted. I can't give them $1,000, but maybe I could give them 50 or 100. How much does even a little bit help? Give us a sense of all that.
Absolutely. I mean, even $50. Imagine 100 people giving $50. I mean, that adds up. We get food through other larger food banks, but we're spending now over $5,000 a week in purchased food.
Right.
To supplement what we get donated through the other channels to be able to give out. So last year, and that's, pre all these other challenges, $300,000 worth of food. And that's just for our local area. I know the larger food banks are purchasing even more food than that. So definitely every dollar matters. It's the collective action of everybody. And I have to say I was very touched what day was that? Thursday. A friend of mine I hadn't seen in quite a while came by the office. She's a teacher and she just got off work. And she said, I had to come. And I don't know if she just heard something on the news. She says, I wanted to bring my donation. And she wrote me a check right there. No, it wasn't a check. She handed me cash. She said, I want to make sure I heard what's going on and I want to make a difference. And, she's a teacher. It's not like our teachers are overpaid. But, she's reaching out and giving me $100. I want this to go to the food bank. I really want to help the problem. And I think it's a beautiful thing. People who do see the need, she sees her students, she sees her neighbors, and knows the need is great. So the common person can truly make a difference. But yeah, that was really special because I thought, she was stopping by just to say hello or whatever, but there was an urgency to her to want to help with the problem.
What keeps you going in this work?
I think seeing the difference that we can make. The appreciation that people have for even the little that we do. And actually, we just had a new person. We hired a staff person in our pantry, and he just said in our staff meeting earlier last week, He said, I can't believe you guys offer choice. So one of our pantry days, it's called choice. It's a best practice. It means you go in and this is what we have, you have to choose from. And we have another day that's what we call grab and go. The bag's already packed. You don't want to wait. You want to go through fast. Here's your food, or like a car line. And he was really touched by that. And we had a number of years ago, a woman who came in and was actually crying because she said, I have a choice. Like I can shop, you know. And when you realize that people are carrying 25, 30 pounds of food, think about that in the grocery bags. They're not carrying it to their car in the parking lot. They're carrying it half a mile across town. That they get to choose what that 35 pounds is made up of. If they're not going to use a big bag of flour, they don't want a 5-pound bag of flour. They want to choose the beans or the rice or the, whatever it is that they will eat. So, the dignity is the other piece. That as much dignity as we can preserve for people who are in need. No, who wants to be standing in a line for food?
Keep talking for a minute.
Okay, I will keep talking for a minute. What do we risk when we continue to stratify society economically between the haves and have-nots and what seems in so many ways to be a widening gap?
Well, I think we risk our humanity, quite honestly, because I think that's what it means to be human, is to care for those around you and for those in need. And I don't actually know where the saying came from, but to whom much is given, much will be required. And that concept of, we often, even those of us kind of in the middle, don't recognize the privilege that we truly do have. Mm-hmm. And to recognize that there's always more that we could do to help relieve the suffering of others.
Talk a little bit more in our remaining minutes about how people can specifically help you. Your website, tell us some more how people can help who are touched by this.
GladesInitiative.org, GLADESINITIATIVE. Mm-hmm. Lots of I's. .org.
We'll make sure to put the name up too.
We're on Facebook too. We don't do a lot of the socials. We're a fairly small nonprofit, so we don't have a lot of the glitz and the glamour, but we have a website. You can donate there. You're welcome to give us a call at 561-996-3310. Like I said, we focus on serving the Glades area of Palm Beach County, and yes, it is Palm Beach County. We like to reemphasize that for some folks because they get confused and think it's Glades County or it's somewhere else. We're right here in Palm Beach County. We're just the far western edge of it, and we welcome people to come volunteer. We are fortunate these years now to have more volunteers than we've had in the past. We used to have to struggle more with that, but we're working on trying to create more space. We don't have necessarily the best facilities to continue to grow and bring in the amount of food that we need to process each week. So we're working on plans to have a warehouse or figure out how we can make that. Right now we work out of refrigerated storage containers and go in and out that way.
You've been doing this work for 18 years now.
Well, as Glades Initiative, yes. I've been doing the work for 30 plus. But
yeah, talk a little bit about that background.
So I, at a young age, I think maybe growing up in the inner city. And
where?
Pittsburgh. We moved a lot. Pittsburgh, South Dakota, Virginia. I spent some time after high school, took a gap year, and I worked in Haiti for a year, so I speak Creole. Came back and went to college, studied international development, and realized right here in our own country, we need development. And that's how I actually ended up in the Glades area. I was there first as a volunteer through a program not unlike Vista, but it was more church affiliated, and then started working. And some would say I got my feet stuck in the muck. But I did feel, when you work in the kind of work we do, sometimes if you want to see and truly try to affect where there's such great need, I think that's important to look. I think there's lots of people sometimes also trying to help, but maybe sometimes just what we're trying to do isn't really targeting what really needs to happen. And so it's a real concerted effect to really try to make a real change, and in a place that's got a lot of challenges.
Did the stories and experiences of your childhood help inform that desire to help others?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So I grew up in a household, I'm one of 10. My mother birth 5 children, but she adopted 5 children.
Oh, wow.
So when you have that being modeled for you all throughout your life, my father was a pastor and then a seminary professor. So the giving and the giving back and the service component was definitely something that was emphasized. So.
Brian?
Well, let me wrap this up by setting an example for the folks that might be watching or listening. Here's a $100 donation
Oh,
for
thank you.
Your organization, and hopefully that'll help a couple of people.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you. We don't usually take cash without receipts, but
Well,
I'll write you one.
that's okay. We're good. We're good. You know,
But,
Thank you. That's really sweet. That's what you ran off to get.
that's what I ran off to get. Yes, I did.
he has an ATM that he cards. It's giving him a bad back. I often tell the story about this guy. He's a tough, hard-bitten old newsman, and he's got one of the softest hearts. And you can bring a tear to this guy's eye faster than anybody. But it does speak to how little goes a long way. Final thoughts, questions, Brian?
Well, I know how important it is for people to have access to food. I had that growing up myself, so what the kind of work you do is fantastic, and we really appreciate it.
Final thoughts from you.
Thank you for this opportunity to share. It's not everybody that wants to hear about the things over there. And for many, we are the problems that people don't want to look at or see. So thank you for giving the opportunity to talk and share about that. And maybe it will help more people kind of cross that bridge and say, you know what, I maybe don't know what to do, but I can do this. And hopefully there'll be more people that are willing. So thank you.
We appreciate your ongoing efforts there very, very much. Karis Engle, President, CEO, the Glades Initiative. Thank you so much.
You know, one of the interesting things about folks living in Palm Beach County or Broward or Dade County, most of them have never been to the Glades. If they're going over to the west coast of Florida, they might pass through it, but actually spending any time in the Glades, getting to know the area. There are even people who don't even know that the Glades is part of Palm Beach County, which is always a little odd. And the irony that when you look at South Florida in particular, but throughout the state, where you have these kind of issues in a lot of the rural areas in this state, again, if people would get off I-95 or I-75 and actually drive back roads through a lot of these small towns, they would see how a lot of these small towns in Florida are struggling. And yet at the same time, we have more billionaires than most other states. We have enormous wealth in this state, and somehow there are a lot of generous people who are very, very wealthy. So don't get me wrong, but we could do more, and we could help a lot of people if we just put a little bit of effort into it.
You talk about the political calculus here as well.
Well, one of the one of the discouraging things about the Glades and these other rural areas is that even our politicians largely ignore them. And I'm not picking on the governor because it's not unique to Ron DeSantis, but you rarely see a governor going into the Glades having a press conference or going into any other struggling rural community in Florida and pointing out the problems and saying we need to do something about it. Even with some exceptions over the years, the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation, the Broward County Delegation, all throughout Florida, they tend to say very little about what's going on in their rural communities. And for people who are not just in the rural communities, even along the coast, people who are in need and, they need to get together and start talking about everybody.
Got a lot of big hearts out there, but I ask you this not that you're a social scientist and she wasn't trying to pretend that's her expertise, but this continued stratification of society between those who have a lot, those who have plenty, those who are barely getting by, and those who don't. As that hardens, what price do we pay?
Well,
we're already paying it, but continue to pay.
Well, frankly, society's always been that way.
Yeah, but
I think that. And again, a lot of people who are very wealthy do contribute to a lot of these organizations that need help. But when you listen to the amount of money she needs, she was talking about a couple of $1,000, $5,000 a month. I mean, it's for a lot of these people, it's pennies on the floor. They could just do better to help people, and part of it is you just have to care. You have to care enough to want to help somebody. I would also say, in fairness, you have to be cautious about who you want to contribute to. There are, unfortunately, have been scams, people who have lost money that they contributed because it went to somebody who was not using it for worthy causes. Or you find organizations that have, a large staff of highly paid people where a lot of that money is not going to help anybody, it's going to pay for staff. So there's a reason to be cautious, but we just need to care about each other a little bit more.
What else is top of mind for you?
Well, we got a lot of politics coming in the next 12 months. We've as we in November celebrated the 25th anniversary of the 2000 election, which we will talk more about in another segment. But we've got a heavy agenda of politics, a big governor's race coming up, and we're people may be thinking about the general election in November of 2026, but we're talking about the primary in August. So we're 8-9 months away from what's going to be a big election, and it's already in full gear.
You chomping at the bit?
Oh, I love it.
Talk a little bit more about why you're chomping at the bit and the lay of the land, and we'll talk more about it in a full episode. But give us a little taste.
Well, I just think there's the potential that we could have a big. Either Republicans are going to continue to have really strong control over the state. And continue to have every statewide elected office and supermajorities in the House, Senate, or, do we start seeing some weariness with some of the things that are happening in the White House, what's left of the White House, and and do we start seeing some shift in momentum? And that's going to be interesting to watch. The Democratic side of the aisle is getting a little crowded, and the governor's primary, who all is going to run for the U.S. Senate seats, who's going to run for the cabinet races. It's going to be a fascinating election year.
We keep hearing around the country, the gerrymandering and the redistricting on top of the redistricting. Florida, a red state. Do you see any real push or pull there when we're so much of a red state anyway? But it's all the rage, whether it's California to Texas right now and everywhere in between.
Well, there's a big push among Republicans and Democrats trying to counter it to redistrict states so that they can increase the number of seats they hold in Congress. Obviously, it's in the interest of both parties to have as many seats as they can. What people are only now starting to notice is when you look at the great influx of people leaving California, Massachusetts, New York, the blue states, moving to Texas and Florida. What we're going to see, whether we redistrict now or wait till 2030, we're going to see California, Massachusetts, and New York lose congressional seats. We're going to see Florida and Texas and other southern states pick up congressional seats, which has a dramatic change on the Electoral College and in the presidential elections for the years after that, as well as what goes on in Congress, because you're going to have additional congressional seats. So we're in for some fascinating times.
As always, right?
As always.
That never changes. Final thoughts, sir.
Are never boring.
No, but they're not.
My final thought would be simply to ask the question, how'd the Gators do in October? Did they do okay?
We're heading for new horizons here.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's all I will say.
Well, you're a big Gator fan.
I am a Gator, and you've known that for 14
I've seen
years, right? You act like that's
you wear
news to you.
Gator shirts and stuff. And
yes, I'm a big Gator, and but I don't want to. We won't take time on the sports scene right now.
Although I understand there's been some betrayal in your family.
Well,
you haven't known.
You've known that for 14 years, too.
But our audience may not have known
I think you've made it abundantly clear. My friend. Listen, interesting. It was very sweet of you. I'll finish where we began. I did I have to admit, for a split second, I said, is he? He's not running to the restroom. I knew you were up to something. But you know what? It was very sweet, and it's a reminder that a little really can go a long way. So. It was a good reminder. It was a sweet moment. And thank goodness for people like her are out doing good
Absolutely.
work. Absolutely.
And I hope
work.
That little contribution I made inspires other people to do the same thing.
Good way to end. Take it away.
That's it. thank you for watching us, and I hope you'll subscribe and watch our future episodes.